Many times I've heard the words, "Why are you so sensitive?" I've heard it. I've been the reason why that question was asked. Why are you so why be so sensitive? Just relax. It's okay. Don't cry. I cried. Yeah, because I'm sensitive. But Jesus is sensitive. So before you judge me, let me tell you why. So Mark chapter 5 is where we're going to go. So this is a very fascinating story. I just love this story because it talks about how sensitive Jesus is. Not in the way you're thinking. The Bible says in Mark chapter 5, verse 25, now a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years. It goes on, and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. There was no cure for her sickness. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, "If only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well." Immediately the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" Jesus knew it was a woman that touched him, and he knew all of the issues that she had faced throughout her entire life by one single touch of his garment. Powerful. Notice, it goes on. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." The Bible says in the book of Isaiah chapter 53 and verse 3, "He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief." Jesus knows grief when he sees it. Not just experientially, as far as intellectually, he knows and feels it when he sees the presence of it. If you look at the Gospels, at any point in time, you'll see the word being used over and over. The word Jesus had compassion on the multitude, or Jesus had compassion on the paralytic. Jesus had compassion. Jesus wept in the book of John because he was so familiar with grief. He is sensitive to grief. The Bible goes on. Surely, not only is he acquainted, he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. Sin leads to sorrow. And Jesus feels it every time it happens. Jesus weeps when grief is present. Death came into existence because of sin. But Jesus is not just sensitive to grief and pain and sorrow. He did something about it. I love God because he is not just one who identifies problems. He is one who fixes them. And so Jesus, out of his sensitivity, decided to die on Calvary's cross so that you and I can walk away from grief. But that only happens when we come to him in faith. So I encourage you. I don't know what you're feeling. I don't know what your pain is. I don't know what your grief is. But if you go to him in faith, even the faintest touch will be recognized.